What would you do with Luke, Han, and Leia in canon that's unique from the EU besides just making their stories more needlessly depressing? I think the big thing that you have to do, and it's not necessarily depressing, but like you have to go in with Luke specifically on the relationship with Ben Solo, how it continues to deteriorate, and how his relationship deteriorates with his actual parents. Jason and Jaina don't join Luke's Jedi Order because it doesn't exist yet, but they don't join it until they're, what are they, like 12? They're older. They've grown up with their parents. They have this familial connection, this connection that obviously would be frowned upon in the more traditional Jedi Order. We know that 5 years on into New Republic canon, he's starting to build his Jedi Order, which is, way earlier than he does in Legends. Obviously, Grogu turns down being his first student. If Ben Solo is his first student, that would put him at like 6 years old or so by the time Luke starts training him. And so that's a lot younger. He has a lot less time to develop with his family, with a less rigid structure than the Jedi Order originally had. So I think a lot of that is building the Luke Ben dynamic, which is something The Last Jedi really wants you to have a strong investment in, but since you don't really know the backstory, it's hard to fully understand what's there between the two of them in that final standoff. There's a lot there. And I think that's the heart and soul of these three characters at that time, because how Han and Leia play off of that, letting their son into Luke's hands, which The Force Awakens tells us is the reason Luke flees into exile, is because he feels so guilty for letting Han and Leia down. That's the crux of everything, building that relationship between those four. You can't just build between the three of them. You have to have Ben Solo a part of it because he comes into the story so early. Han and Leia are one that I think the push and pull of like politics and the weight of that Han's feeling. You see that a lot in Legends, how he's struggling to be a true leader. And it's kind of the missions where he's allowed to get a little grimier and dirtier and use his underworld connections and all that stuff that helps him. But in canon, there's stability a lot faster than in Legends. That push and pull where like there's no longer wartime. What is Han Solo doing? And how does he, sit there with nothing to do when Leia's building a government and his son is off with Luke? What's his role? And so I think that focus on their relationship, the strain that they have, maybe making Han a little bit closer to Luke in that regard. Like maybe Han's the overbearing father who like shows up on weekends at the Jedi Temple. He's like, hey, I want to take my son out for a trip. And Luke's like, we're doing training today. And only having one child to deal with instead of three. There's this weight on Ben Solo. I think one of the reasons he's so angsty, it's similar to Anakin, is there's this weight on this kid as this, the golden child of the Skywalkers. He's the only child any of them had, right? He's the next generation of Skywalkers. You have to build off of Ben Solo and how he connects to everybody because he's ultimately kind of the crux point into the sequels. I really want Mara Jade in canon. I'd love to see her introduced, whether she dies at the hands of Ben Solo, whether she dies. If she's going to die, personally, the way I would have her die is because of something Ben accidentally was kind of involved in. Not that he indirectly kills her, but like he makes a mistake that ultimately causes her to die, because I think that's something that builds tension between him and Luke, but also it's not necessarily his fault. You can sympathize for him or you have her live on. We talked a few streams ago about how you could have her live on. I think the only way you do that is you'd have to trick Ben. You'd have to make him think that she died, because otherwise, why is he not going after her throughout the entire sequel trilogy?
There's a lot that I absolutely agree on there. I think to start off with the Mara point, basically between Thrawn trilogy and Thrawn duology, Mara is very scattershot. She's not really trying to spend time around Luke. And this might be a hot take. As much as people love Mara, I think they love just Mara. They don't necessarily love Mara with Luke as much as they love Mara that's got, all this training under Palpatine, kind of being his right hand weapon and stuff like that, right? This might be controversial. I think Mara's just got an iconic look, and when you actually piece together everything, it's more because she's got a cool look, she's got cool swagger, she calls out people on everything before she finally gets into that romantic subplot that really is so well done in the Thrawn duology. But after that, I think she's a bit up and down again. I want her back. I think EU has a lot that you can draw her from. I think I really do want it to be that Ben might have some direct role in her death or disappearance, but it can't be like fully on him. It's like circumstances forced him to make a tough decision, or he was inexperienced, or just things went wrong, or Mara had to sacrifice herself for Ben. Like build up that weight for that character. Build up that like these mistakes, while partially on him, shouldn't be all put on the kid himself, but because the responsibility of that family lineage, because of the darkness that is an underlying part of their grandfather's legacy and all that, and the voices in his head, like that should all scramble him up, right? As much as it pushes them away from him and causes a little bit of tensions and fractures between each individual member of the family with him and maybe even amongst themselves, that weight building up on the kid has to be displayed heavily, and how that interacts when they're all put together in a certain room. Like this is a kid that by the time he's 13, he should be like introspective like Jason was, but he should be like already weighed down by so many things going on. And if he's like the reason why his aunt is dead, right? It should be the almost opposite of like Jason kind of like lying about and scurrying away. It should be like, I have to live with this my whole life. I just want Mara as a character, even if she doesn't have the same timeline, to just be so essential, so plugged in, and so lined up with everything. Some of how sequels have set it up minimizes just how much she can kind of get away without like underplaying Rey, because she has been formally adopted by Leia, by Luke into that Skywalker lineage. Even if she's not by blood, it's because of the goodness in them, of them overcoming evil, of overcoming the most evil in the galaxy and Palpatine and all that. So I just think that she has so much of her swagger in Bantam era, but it's so condensed in two parts that it carries a lot of her characterization moving forward. When I wish she had a lot more richness going with her and her own individual journeys that and line if it lined up well with the family units, I think that would have been a lot easier for her, but it doesn't, because of Han and Leia getting busy very quickly versus Luke having the whole responsibility of the Jedi Order kind of holding him back. And is canon gonna even have space for him to do that with how early he started? I don't know. It'll just be very interesting. But if there is no kid from him and Mara, that does allow Mara to be a lot more independent of a character and actually focus on her training and focus on her role in the galaxy, which I think would be very interesting, because those are the things that once she kind of just accepts and falls in love with Luke, she's just kind of plugged in like everybody else, when everybody else has gone movies of development, has gone their own Bantam era of development, and every little thing building them up into the family structures that she's just in by the start of the new Jedi Order.
Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. This was actually a clip from our live stream and Q&A, where we're going to be starting a new thing called the Fan Question of the Week.
These are sourced from our weekly live Q&As that are every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this is a great chance for you guys to engage with us, and we can have some great conversation on the lives. So make sure to try to join us on Tuesdays.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this, and comment below. Let us know your thoughts on this video. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.